So in the previous video we talked about different paradigms, different ways that we could ask a machine to translate, and now we'll talk a bit about the remaining challenges for machine translation. So there is the challenge of translating from or into low resource languages. So those are languages where there is little data available, and this, for those language pairs, it often leads to poor translation quality. In low resource languages, there are often complex linguistic structures or cultural nuances that are different from several high resource languages, and if there is little data, it's difficult for the MT systems to capture these nuances. Another challenge is the maintaining of the context and of the coherence in a translation. So up to now, most machine translation systems are sentence-level translation systems, and this can lead to inconsistent translations on the document level. So capturing the discourse-level coherence or the document coherence is still a significant challenge, and this is exemplified by, for instance, pronoun resolution, which is where we want to if we want to translate pronouns correctly, we often need to know what these pronouns refer to across sentences, in previous sentences or previous paragraphs. And this is very important, for instance, with gendered pronouns in languages like French or Spanish, and this can lead to confusion if the system is working on a too narrow context, forgot the previous paragraph, for instance. Also, the translation of idiomatic expressions is very difficult, so proverbs and things like that, they often do not translate well, as machine translation models may fail to recognize the figurative meaning, and so translate everything literally instead, which gives funny translations, but not correct ones. Another challenge is to in a professional context is to have machine translation for specific domains. So when you translate a certain technical or legal or medical text, you need to adhere to a certain jargon or terminology for that domain. And it is difficult to adapt models to work, to generate those correct terminology. It's difficult to include existing terminology lists into a neural machine translation system. And it's also not trivial to adapt or to fine-tune machine translation models to handle specific domains, because of the data, which is often not readily available for every domain. A more societal challenge is the avoidance of bias, and so, for instance, gender bias. Machine translation systems can reflect or even amplify societal biases present in the training data, for instance, leading to gender bias or to racial bias. An example of gender bias would be that a term in one language may be translated with an implicit gender, or may have an implicit gender, and when it's translated, the gender has to become explicit. And for instance, that could lead to the term doctor being translated into a gender-specific language, where doctor is always translated as male and nurse is always translated as female, for instance. So there is cultural sensitivity and cultural differences, and translating between cultures, because you're not only translating text, you're translating information from one culture to another. This can result in culturally inappropriate or offensive machine translation systems, machine translations. So the systems may lack sensitivity for context-specific nuances. Because we're using large language models, there's also the environmental impact and the training costs. So the current models are very computationally expensive, and so this raises the energy consumption, and so it's very very polluting in a way to train these models. So there is still the challenge of finding more efficient models, so a bit to downscale while keeping up with the quality. And then the quality is the next issue. How can we evaluate machine translation quality? As said in the previous video, there is not one correct translation for one sentence. So we have automatic metrics that provide us with scores on how well the systems translate. But these automatic metrics do not always correlate well with human judgments of translation fluency or adequacy. And human evaluations these are expensive and time-consuming, but they're also subjective and inconsistent, making it difficult to estimate model performance across all different languages, for instance. Even more, we have the quality in specific translation applications. So, for instance, when we're translating in the legal domain, can we use a generic system? How well does that work? Do we need specific evaluation sets? It's very hard to assess the suitability of certain systems in specialized tasks.